Do you know what, as a teacher, I remember as a former teacher, I remember feeling like there was something, fundamentally unfair. I don't want to sound like, like a social justice warrior or anything, but, you put in a lot of hours and, somebody can put in half as many hours and basically get paid the same amount as you do. It's all this tenure system where everybody is kept on the same level. When there's no incentive to do better because you will get paid better, when there's no incentive to, the only way you can move up in teaching is to move up out of teaching, right? You move up into administration.
Yes.
So,
how big bureaucracy grows. Yeah,
right.
The administrative state.
Right. But,
and only the good ones get to get up there, the good ones that are on the right side of the ideology.
Right. So what we have is essentially a socialist system. It's a captured system that doesn't recognize merit and doesn't recognize individual achievement. It doesn't recognize ingenuity. It doesn't recognize any of those things. That's one of the reasons I left teaching. I left teaching. I went into the private sector. In 3 years, I had doubled my pay.
Yeah.
So
imagine even if you just went into like tutoring, your specialty was English and literature and stuff, right?
Yeah. I went
just tutoring, you could have smashed it.
Well, and that was it. But, I'm like, okay, I'm trained as a teacher, but my mind is trained differently. I wasn't, I went through a teacher program, but I didn't like it. I'm a self-taught person. So, okay, well, I'm going to go do something else. And I got into information systems and started doing technical writing and technical editing and web development and things like that. But
I know you say technical writing and my eyes glazed over.
Everybody
I almost fell out of my chair.
I'm sorry. I know.
You're brilliant. You have a very curious
mind. When you plug the vacuum into the wall, make sure that you put the.
She doesn't have much time.
Yeah. I think what I'm trying to say is that suddenly I was in an environment that recognized
your value,
my ability to produce, right, and to be an asset, and so I moved very quickly, up through the ranks, and it was just funny. I was on probation as soon as I got hired, and then 3 months later. Just after I got off probation, my boss approached me and he says, "Oh, we want to make you the supervisor of the writers group." And I'm like, I just got off probation. I don't know as much as all these other people. But, he was like, basically, it was kind of a way of recognizing that, hey, there's potential here. And, and he could have fired me. Yeah. Right. He could have fired me if I wasn't worth it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's missing in this education equation, right? That you can be, and I had a principal sit down and explain to me how this works. He's like, there's a baseline. And he said, if a teacher, it falls actually below the baseline, it's okay, as long as they don't fall behind the baseline, which is
sounds like the red line in the sound of Mom used to low expectations.
Yes.
They've got a slider. Oh, yes. There's our lowest teacher.
That's exactly what I was told by this principal.
So what it is when they need to lose a teacher, the baseline might move up a little bit. It's anarcho.
Right.
Tyranny.
It makes sense.
So they've got the baseline. If they need to keep 15 teachers, they've got 15 teachers. That baseline fluctuates. Yeah. But next year, when we need 14 teachers, like the Twilla County that did so well with keeping up on their stuff, so they got money taken away. So now we got a whole bunch of half-built schools around here. Anyways,
you're off the rails again.
I know,
stay on the path.
But so when they need to drop to 14 teachers, the baseline will go static all of a sudden. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, he just said, they have to really underperform. It's not just
to be like terrible.
They have to be pretty terrible, which I'm like, oh.
So you're saying Grantsville football coach and cheerleader level terrible.
I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything about anybody in particular. I'm saying something about the system. And the system is set up to celebrate, I think, mediocrity.
My kids have extraordinary teachers. I can think of every single one in my name right now, or in my mind, that by name that have just been extraordinary at my kids' school. And yet I know and they've inspired my kids, and they got them in love with reading at such a young age, and history.
That's great.
And all these things, right? These teachers stay. I know it's not for the pay, and they're in a charter. So it's not maybe that they'll be tenured. I don't know how tenured works in elementary and junior high, but these teachers do it for the love of teaching. And I see them get exhausted by the system.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't get that ability to just inspire and do what they've done. They have to do it on their time, in their way. But they're following this outlined curriculum that is like literally reading a book that then the student repeats, and they're literally teaching out of a textbook, but it's those moments of independent reading time or math time where my kid comes home feeling extraordinary because he figured out this math solution, and now he's like, give me any problem. That was a teacher that took the time and energy, but they're not getting rewarded. Like, how's the reward system other than fall in line? How do they judge? You're one of many that teaches one child. Does the child graduate? Do they not?
It's hoop jumping.
Yeah.
That's how they get rewarded. They jump through more hoops, more trainings, more professional developments.
And
It's
they don't,
awful.
these teachers that I know, I don't think they do that. I think they're content, but it makes me angry that we don't have a way to reward teachers financially, especially when I see all this money funnel through the state for teachers. And then what he said, you've got all this money going everywhere, but no one's accountable. And then they're asking for bonds and all this other stuff. And you're like, wait a minute.
Right.
There's great teachers. Every school has them. Every school.
Yes.
But how do we tell them apart? It's the students that will tell you who they are.
They will. And you'll know as a parent when you meet with them. And I've seen some extraordinary teachers in my kids', school experiences. And it just breaks my heart that they are just one of many.
Yeah.
That they are treated on that same level. And everybody knows, every parent asks, who are the good ones? Who are the good ones? And I would have no problem with like upping teacher pay for those who are those excellent teachers. They deserve it. They have earned it. That's
they're
what
chosen
merit
maybe
means.
by the student vote, the parent vote, and maybe the administrative vote. But
How do
But
we-
you need
together.
some parental feedback,
Yeah.
right? And you need, I think, it's
Meaningful
like,
feedback.
right, meaningful feedback.
Open and honest.
Right. Well, I think it should be, in some ways, I think a lot of parents, we vote with our feet, right? And in terms of education, we vote with our children in the only way we can. I want my kid in that teacher's class.
Yeah.
Right. But then a lot of times you don't get certain choices, they're kind of taken away from you in, the junior high and high school level. Oh, you want that teacher? Well, we'd have to upend the entire schedule and because these classes are required. And you're like, I don't even want my kid
I don't
to take
care about
digital literacy.
That's the
I
one.
don't,
Well-
but you're telling me I have to rearrange my kid's schedule entirely over digital literacy.
But look at what schools are seeing. Every parent wants this teacher. We're having to maneuver this teacher's class schedule. Why isn't this teacher flagged for once for catching them where, okay, this person needs a raise because every kid in this school wants her and every parent wants him. And we've got to reward him because what's to stop him from going to another school that will, a private school that will,
Right.
him going out on his own and creating his own tutoring or private. We're not rewarding this.
No.
And what's happening is these poor teachers are falling by the wayside and they're crushed. They're crushed by the system that is meant to hurt them. It's
Yes.
meant that you have to fall in line or you don't belong in there.
Oh, absolutely. And it is soul eating to actually be in that type of environment. I've just felt it myself. So, and there is this, suddenly I left teaching and I'm like, oh, they're treating me like an adult. Like I'm in, it was very weird.
They respect you and your mind and what you do.
Right.
It's like
in
getting
a
out of the
market where they
military.
could fire me, basically.
It's like getting out of the military and you're no longer washing the tarmac in the rain with the hose. Like,
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm out there
Yeah. Well,
So-
and the kids, let me just say this. It was very interesting to see teachers. I think a lot of people go into teaching for the love of like, oh, I love to learn myself, and I feel like I have something to give to these kids. Somewhere
Make a
along,
difference.
right? I'm going to
Yeah.
make a difference. Somewhere along the line, and I would probably put it right about that teacher college training, right? That's kind of a pivot point for a lot of these people, and they get trained and kind of flipped, I think, into this activist mindset.
I'm picturing like that. What's that show where they tie the kid down to the chair and they've got his eyes held open with the stuff?
But they get in there, and I was there too. It's a bit of a blender going into these environments. You have discipline problems, behavioral issues with a lot of kids, but administratively, everybody's walking on eggshells. Nobody wants a lawsuit, or nobody wants to like upset parents, and we have to figure this out. We have to figure this out at a certain point. Who does the primary responsibility for educating that child rest with? We all know who that is. It's with the parents.
Yep.
It's the parent's child. It's not the state's.
It's not the state's. And so we can't parent for
Thank you, Mallory.
Yeah. We can't take over parenting as the state. We
Because
just can't.
what happens in the times when the school isn't open?
Well, they
Chaos.
want them open 24
Kids
hours
starve
a
to
day.
But what happens?
That was this
The
Lincoln
kid,
Fillmore
the
bill.
kid still gets insured by mom and dad. The mom and dad assume legal
responsible for them
responsibility.
Yeah.
Mom and dad. I mean, right now, I'll bet these what is it, teen service centers that you talked about?
Mhm.
I'll bet if that kid goes there, does the runaway and goes there and does something wrong, I'll bet mom and dad still get to
Oh yeah.
deal with the legal system
There's
on that.
probably
Is the state can we drag the state, the person who wrote that bill, can we have them go stand in court with that kid when that kid steals a car?
when that kid has a severe injury or cancer,
or
God
when that
forbid,
kid's-
needs, insurance.
Yeah.
The
Well, no,
parents'
they would
job
they would
is
gladly
to
do
take care
that.
of their child.
They
When
would
the
gladly.
state takes that away from them, they want no responsibility. They want to blame the parent. So they're going to blame the parent when you don't say your child
Mhm.
needs a sex change, and the parent now loses rights to their child.
Mhm.
This is happening all over, and it's death by 1,000 cuts. And we have. It's as simple as a bill like that. It starts there, and then it grows beyond our control. It's already beyond our control.
Yeah.
And now
They only ever get bigger.
We are-
It never shrinks.
so hard to take it away
Oh,
once
we're-
it's been given.
Yeah.
We've got
so-
another guest coming up.
Yes.
So I would love it if you guys would give us a closing. I know you're both running for office.
Well, let me quickly shout out both of your websites
Oh yes.
that you have going on. So for Natalie Cline, it's nataliejcline.com.
That's Cline with a C.
Yeah, it's NATALIEJCLINE.com. That's to go to her website, and I'm sure she'll be running again. Even though I talk about not voting in incumbents, I think I could hang with one. if I had to.
Jeez.
And then we've got, and she's in your District 9. That's your South Salt
Are
Lake.
you in Midvale?
So part of mine, I cover a small part of Midvale, but mostly I'm South Jordan, Riverton, Bluffdale, Harriman.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got a good friend that's in Harriman, and she's got her kids in private school at Juan Diego.
Okay.
But I know one of our listeners and viewers that's very wonderful. She's in Midvale, and that's O'Malley May. And I was just wondering if maybe you were her
That's
representative.
State Delegate Mally May. I recognize that she got.
Well,
Did she get reelected?
Yeah, she's back in.
Congratulations.
No, she had to do it because it's either her or use toilet paper. Anyways, and the other website is Monica Wilbur. That's MonicAWilbur.com. Monica Wilbur. She's running for our out in Tooele local board. That's State Board
We
10.
can post these on our
They're in the show
political
notes.
head trauma webpage as well.
Yeah, they're in the show notes. They'll be on everything. The hot links are in the show notes. Just click them.
If you
Should
guys
take you right
agree
there.
with this, what you've learned from these ladies tonight, and let's say that maybe financially you can't support them, but you want to make phone calls for them or attend meetings or just be a voice and get to know more, I ask you, please get to know where they stand. Don't speak for them, mind you. ask them. Both of them have been completely. I'm so grateful. You've both been completely transparent. There's been it's
and
been
you're tough. You're tough ladies.
very tough and
I like it.
courageous. And I know that you're individually running. It's not a group thing. But if we could have a couple of strong-willed, courageous human beings on the school board, and if you like what you've seen in these ladies, get behind them, support them, get to know them. I'm so impressed with both of you, and I've had a lot of chances to talk to you and read your stuff and watch your videos, and I'm just really proud. It takes a lot to do what you're doing. It takes courage. I mean, you're running new, you're an incumbent, you have a record to base the votes on. And you obviously have people who have
you've been fighting for us. You're not one of those that's saying, when I get in there, I'm gonna fight for you. You've been literally taking shots for this, taking shots for parents to remain involved and in control of their children's lives. Yeah, everyone else probably says, oh, I'm gonna, but you've been doing it. And you have had the media, all the media out here in Utah, your conservative Republican media,
very much.
They've come in, because there's no such thing as conservative Republican media, but they have come after you hard. And you read it all the time, and they've got you painted as like, when you show up to the meeting, you don't walk through the doors like a puff cloud of smoke and you rise up with your pitchfork. But you really don't. You're a real human being. You showed up in here like a little silver car and got out of the door and said, hi, how you doing? Normal. She doesn't show up in a cloud of smoke. I'm just to say it right now. I don't care what the transcript bulletin tells you.
We can work on her WWE entrance. I mean, I
think we need to do that.
machine.
Where's the next meeting at? Can I build a trap door? I'm going to need some pyrotechnics.
You have a lot of support out there. And I know it's a lot of quiet people who are fighting and really hoping and praying that you do well. And I know this because a lot have contacted me, and not even me reaching out. It's just, hey, did you hear about this? What are your thoughts? And I'm just like, well, I'll find out. Let me find out. And I did. I just asked. And you've been very transparent. So I appreciate that. I would like you guys to give us a closing message without him interrupting.
We got to do higherground.work as well. Higherground.work. That's if you want to go in. These ladies, they've built a website where they've compiled their research that you guys can go to and research this stuff for yourself.
Find out why people hate them.
Read about
in
it.
the government.
Yes.
This is so interesting, and it affects all of us, guys.
And there's lots of people singing your praises. 2 strong women here.
That's Amali May.
Thanks for having them on. I've heard state delegates rock. That's Amali May. Was it Natalie that my city council member Bryant Brown went after recently?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Really?
I'm telling you, these aren't ladies sitting in here. These are warriors. These are dang warriors. So we need to thank them, appreciate them. Go check out Higher Ground. Even if you may disagree with their message, educate yourself on what your kids are being taught in there. I'm talking to you purple-haired leftists.
And you're not doing this. You're putting data together. I've noticed some of the stuff you've talked about on the school board. It's just data. You're not putting a spin on it. You're not trying to prove a point, even though you're proving a point because the data proves the point for you. Yeah. But it's not like you have to go into this extreme right wing, let's burn books and let's be crazy people. I'm just showing you the data. This is what you're dealing with. Right. And are you happy? Is this happy? Are you happy with this?
We just put out the words of those that are perpetuating the system in their own words, what they're doing. And we give examples of how that looks as it's implemented. We have amazing resources from thousands of dollars worth of grandma requests that pull back the curtain and show you what's happening behind the USBE in their own documents that are linked to on higherground.work, along with the explanations of the different aspects of the system that are transforming our education system and not in a good way. So it's all there. It's hard to argue with because it's just the facts, and you can read it for yourself and see.
How many of you have to win on the school board to affect actual change? because
We'd
I'm
have
sure.
to like flip it.
Yeah,
So-
I think we need all the seats.
And how many that are running right now would be allies to what you're doing?
That's a good question.
Well, here's my question.
Yeah.
Matt Hymas is our representative right now. We've reached out to him. I'd like to get him on the show. I need to know what to ask him.
Well, the thing is change is hard. Like the system is designed to be resilient to change, and when you
Mhm.
get on, your loyalties are designed to be, they design things to flip your loyalties to the system. Now you represent the system. Now you represent school districts. Now you represent the board, and it's almost like all these people who elected you suddenly disappear. Like,
Yeah.
and yet they're the reason you're there. And I mean, they need a voice. The districts have plenty of money. They have all your taxpayer money to make their voices heard. But these taxpayers only have their representatives. And then they have to be willing to have the courage to stand alone. Well, if Natalie gets reelected, they won't be standing alone. They'll have somebody who's proven herself time and time again to not break or not bend. And that's,
Well, I have parents and teachers all across the state that contact me in order to have their voice be heard
Right.
and their concerns addressed when they can't get them
Outside your district.
heard
Mhm.
otherwise. And so, I mean, that tells me what a huge need we have in Utah for people to be elected that will actually represent the people that elected them.
Do you know how many stages someone has to go through to actually, they'd have to be so angry to actually contact a school board member?
right.
Because they start with the teacher, they go to the principal, then it's the superintendent. It's not
The local
until they're
board.
just like so fed up. So as many phone calls and complaints that you hear at the school board, there's got to be 10 times
Yeah.
that in
Yeah.
everyday households all over the state.
Oh, yeah.
And I filled these questions nonstop since I got on the board. And my heart goes out to the families of Utah that simply want the best for their child, that want a good education, that maybe don't feel like they have other options
Yeah.
at this point in their life for whatever reason, whatever circumstances they're facing. And they need the system to work for them, but the system isn't working for them. The system is hurting them and hurting their child and turning their children against them and confusing their children in many instances, at least those that contact me. Obviously,
Right.
for everyone that contacts me, there are, however many more that aren't, that may be satisfied with what they're receiving. But there's also the silent majority that don't know that something's going wrong, or they don't know what to say or who
How
to
to fix
contact
it.
or how to fix it, and they just feel hopeless and they just are heartsick as they lose their child
Yeah.
one day at a time to this system that is transforming their child into something that they don't even recognize. And that's not okay. The
No.
system should be supporting families. That's what our Utah code says, is that the parents are the primary and that the school is secondary and should be supportive of the parent.
Right.
And this is where I've tried very hard to bring transparency to parents. The system talks about transparency, but they want to make the students' data transparent to them. They want to learn and data mine everything they can about the student so that the student and the family life of that student is completely transparent to the system, not the system being transparent and accountable to the families.
Yeah, they just use the word differently.
Right.
It just
So
means something
my
else.
I've gotta
my
step
goal
out
is
real quick.
to bring that transparency to parents, and I will continue to fight to do that. As long as the people want me there, I am happy to serve. It's taken great sacrifice, but I firmly believe that sacrifice brings forth blessings. And I believe that that's the case for families also, and that parents have hard choices to make going forward. There are no easy solutions, but one thing I know is that sacrifice brings forth blessings. And so if you don't sacrifice for your child, you will end up inadvertently sacrificing your child.
Oh, that's a really, really good way
And
to put it.
I don't want to see any more children lost to a system that doesn't care about the individual child as much as it might try to say that it does. Your child is just a number in the system. The parent is what the child needs. God gave you that child because you were the perfect person for that child. So don't outsource your child to anybody, no matter, especially to the experts, no matter how competent they may seem. Ultimately, the responsibility and the accountability for the well-being of the child falls back to the parent, and the parent will be accountable to God.
It's true. And the thing is, like, there are so many parents right now that think they're doing right by their child. They think they've got it right. Okay, I don't want to not listen to my child who tells me they want to be a pirate. I want to do right by them. These parents come with the intent. They love their child. No one questions that. It's just that, what harm are you doing? What harm do you end up doing? I mean, we all agree that someday our kids are going to need therapy and we're going to be the blame. Like, all of us. Like, I totally believe we can blame our parents for all kinds of
we
things.
have to be the parents.
Right. Because that is our job. And if we do it right, our kid knows at the end of the day that you fought for them first and that you thought for their future too.
Right.
It wasn't about the right now.
Yes.
It's about their future. And
Tough love.
tough love is important.
Our kids need not just empathy, they need tough love. And sometimes empathy undermines
And a
actual
system doesn't love anybody.
No.
A system's designed not to love. It's designed to make choices without any. There's no passion. There's no love. It's about uniformity and numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have anything you want to say? Because sorry, we've gone over way long. We could talk to you guys all night.
I just thought Natalie's message is it's exactly what parents need to hear. It's exactly what the people of Utah need to hear. And it resonates with me, not because I'm Natalie's friend. It resonates with me because I have gone through these things with my own kids in this system.
Right.
I've been seeing it from the second they step their foot into those school doors. And you're so torn as a parent because you're like, oh, I want to be supportive of the school, but my child is my first priority. And if I lose my child because I was too busy trying to appease the feelings of adults who are hired to do a job that maybe, for whatever reason, they're not succeeding in, but if I give my child over to that system thinking, well, they need a diploma, they need grades, they need whatever. Best. Yeah. We do need to just kind of sit back and understand that learning is not as complicated. It is not as complicated as the system makes it out to be. They have overcomplicated what is a very simple process and that comes naturally and intuitively to most children. But that natural and intuitive nature of it gets beaten out of the kids. It gets beaten out of them by a bad system, a system that spawns more systems to support it. And this is where we need to pull back. And I think Utah's families, whether they have children in the system or not, need to recognize that we are paying a lot for not that much. And when I say not that much, I mean it's not that much that really benefits our kids in the end.
Do you mean superintendents don't make all the difference in your child's education?
There are the people who are closest to the child, meaning the family, they are going to have the greatest influence on that child. Mm-hmm. And their peers will, also have influence. But if we don't reprioritize, and if we don't try to pull back on the extra, the complicated, all that, frou extra that we're throwing on our kids, then we are going to reap the whirlwind.
We'll lose them.
Yeah.
We'll lose them, and we'll lose. If they make it to adulthood, God willing, even as adults, they lose that family bond, and then they don't create a new one when they have their own families.
No, it's dysfunctional, right? From the start to the end, and we are meant to be happy.
That's what God wants for us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the human nature, is to want And there's a difference between happy and satisfaction. I think there's happy is a state of being that it's okay. And I think it's lost today.
It requires connection with their family.
Yeah.
With their blood relatives. That's why the schools are pushing belonging, but that's a whole nother conversation.
We need to have a whole nother conversation anytime. You're welcome on the show. We enjoyed this conversation. Obviously, it went really long, and I apologize to our next guest, Trent Christensen, who's coming up. Or sorry, not Trent, Josh. I am losing my mind. We are going to.
We're going to step off on a kind of a break for a second.
Yes, if we could get that.
While I kick that address. No, thank you. I just want to say, and for those of us who are unreligious, the idea is you want to throw your genes as far down time as you can. That's I'm not a religious person, so this is my standpoint on why I fight for this. You want to throw your genes down, and to do that, you need healthy offspring.
Man, you make it sound so romantic.
I know. Brown chicken, brown cow. Anyways, but no, gosh, I wish we could play Pink Floyd right now.
Right.
We don't need no.
So he's trying to wrap it up with this tyrant. We are welcoming Josh Randall, but if you could, Dwayne, if you could get us off into a break.
Dwayne, throw on some easy FM 100.
Couple minutes, and
we're gonna walk them out, and then we'll be right back.
Thanks, Holly and Jerry.
Yeah,
thank you.
Guys.
Hey, and there's lots of comments. Everyone's saying, "Good job, outstanding, thank you." I want to personally, Natalie, I can't express this enough. I want to thank you. My kid's out of school. He's been out of school 10 years, but I want to thank you for being there and taking those hits. I really want to thank you. Monica, you've seen it and you're stepping up to take it too.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
Thank you guys. You ladies are tough. You ladies are very tough, and I thank you for that. I can't express that enough. Thank you for taking those hits. Thank you for being willing to have all of our newspapers and all of our TV stations call you evil and all that. Thank you. That is there's nothing that I can't express to you how impressed I am with your willingness to do that for the parents, even the parents who don't know any better or don't recognize it. Thank you.
I actually care about you.
Well, I hope that people can, when they're thinking about electing someone for school board, I hope they will really digest exactly what we're facing and then exactly what's at stake, because this state is growing and it's getting too big. And even our elections we've put there, they've acknowledged that it's too big, but yet they're either got to be a part of it or they've got to fight it. And we need them to stand up. So it's nice to see people stand up. I thank you as well. And I hope you have a safe drive home. Thanks for coming up to the studio.
Thank you so much. You guys, awesome.